Hey guys, welcome back to the MCU HQ, and this video is late. This and part 3 of Why the MCU Works are very late. I don't really have an excuse, I just didn't put them up, but I did not forget about them. I'm putting this up, so this video uploaded first, and then part 3 of Why the MCU Works is going to be here in the next couple of days. But I do have a lot of content coming out in like the next 2-3 days, so hopefully that makes up for the delay. But anyway, in this video we are going to be doing the final part of my, it's the third part really of my MCU ranking, because the next part is going to be ranking all 23 movies after Far From Home comes out. So yeah, so this is ranking the 4 Avengers movies that we have: the Avengers, Avengers Age of Ultron, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. And it was very hard to make this list because I rather enjoy all these movies, and the ones that are in first, second, and third place all moved around and shifted a little bit before I found where they go. Anyway, without further ado and delaying this any longer, let's hop into it. In fourth place we have Avengers Age of Ultron. They kind of messed up with this movie. They didn't really let it do its own thing. Joss Whedon really didn't get to do what he wanted with the movie. There was studio interference on this one. There's an interview with him where he said there's all the things he has to do, there's all the things he's not allowed to do. And then somewhere in the middle is where Age of Ultron can go. And I feel like that was really the main issue with this movie. They shoved so many subplots into this movie to set up films for Phase 3. Just off the top of my head, I can remember them setting up Civil War, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Infinity War, and is that it? Yeah, they set up those 4. There might be another one I'm blanking on, but I do remember them really pushing hard to set up those movies, and it doesn't work out well. What it should be is the solo movies lead up to the Avengers, not the Avengers leading up to solo movies. That's basically how it should be. They didn't do that for Age of Ultron, but they haven't done it in any movie since Age of Ultron. Although some would argue Captain Marvel's an Avengers ad, which I kind of would, but not to that extent. Aside from that, this movie really, it makes you want to think. It makes you want to really have to hone in, think about everything that's happening, and it doesn't. If I look at my MCU shelf, and I walk over there, and I'm like, wow, what movie could I watch where I can just sit down, turn off my brain, and enjoy the movie? I'm going to pick Age of Ultron. I do like the route they went with Hulk in this. I feel like it was a good place to take the Hulk. And then introducing Quicksilver just to kill him off was, I feel like, not really the best idea. And there were a lot of characters in this movie that there were just a lot of characters that weren't balanced well. Now you could be like, but Infinity War's poster has 22 characters on it, and that film was amazing. Yeah, because it was written and directed in a way that all the characters, it didn't feel like there were too many. You know, they all split up on their different little subplots, so that way it doesn't feel too crowded. Age of Ultron doesn't do that, and it's just another one of the reasons why it's the worst Avengers movie. In third place, we have The Avengers. I'm holding it. So this movie is 2 hours and 23 minutes long, and oh my god, does it not feel like that. The action is super good. The story is great. The villains are good. All of the characters, that their scenes when they're talking are amazing. All the characters get stuff to do, although Captain America probably is the least to do, other than Hawkeye. But I don't know, I'm not fine with it. I don't have an issue with it. Yeah, of the 4 people on the cover, Cap has the least to do in the movie. But again, it was never really a problem for me, except I hate his suit. And this movie, up until I saw Endgame, had the greatest moment in the MCU for me, which was all the heroes in a circle, ready to fight, assembled for the first time. That scene is still so iconic, and I think it's part of the reason that this movie is basically already a classic, and it's not even 10 years old yet. Is they executed it so well. Really, the only issue, though, is that certain characters, really it's Iron Man, Thor, and Hulk feel like are main players in this movie. Black Widow kind of has stuff to do, but not as much as the other three. Cap doesn't get much to do, and Hawkeye. Hawkeye. But, yeah, so that's really the only complaint I have with this movie. But I don't know. I really enjoy it. It is such a fun movie. Okay, so that's basically all I can think of Avengers right now, of why it's so good. So, top two here. Here's our choices. We got Infinity War, Endgame. Which one is it gonna be? Drumroll. Avengers, Endgame. It was super hard for me to put this at number 2, because there's like 97% of this movie that I really love, and then the other 3% has its problems. And it's hard. The last like hour of this movie is so amazing that it almost makes you forget about all the problems that the movie has. But I'm gonna start with the cons for this movie actually before I get into the pros. So first up, really the way they did the whole Ant-Man getting out of the quantum realm thing still bugs me. I kind of wish he found a way out instead of a rat coincidentally walking into the van and stepping on the button. So basically the rat saved the universe. And when you think about that, it kind of gets annoying. Also, Hulk, besides snapping his fingers, I feel like Hulk didn't really have any moment in this movie. He didn't get a rematch against Thanos. His biggest feat of strength outside of snapping his fingers was when he threw a bench when they were mourning Natasha. And that's where we go with Hulk. So Hulk was, let's think about Hulk. Norton's Hulk was a beast. And then we got Avengers where Hulk, just so you know, punched a Leviathan in the nose and it stopped moving, just like that. And then in Age of Ultron, I really liked what they did with Hulk in Age of Ultron, which I mentioned earlier. Although I feel like he was toned down a little bit on the strength. And then we get to Ragnarok, where Hulk is one of the best characters in that movie. He's such a big baby, I love it. And this is really where Hulk's arc starts. Because they're doing the whole, there's going to be no more banners, it's only Hulk. And it ends, and there's only Hulk. And then we get to Infinity War, and Thanos just destroys Hulk. Now I want to remind you, this is the same Hulk that punched a Leviathan and got it to stop moving. Thanos beats that Hulk, so Hulk's like, no, you know what, we're going banner mode. And then all of Infinity War, Hulk's having trouble doing stuff. And so you're thinking, oh, in Avengers 4, because we didn't know the title at the time, you're like, oh, in Avengers 4, Hulk's going to have a moment where he comes back. And, yeah, he didn't. There was no moment where he hulked out. There was nothing where he reasoned with the Hulk. We didn't get to see him in the Gamma Lab when he brought Banner and Hulk together. We just hear someone say, we're going to need a bigger brain, and that cuts to Hulk eating scrambled eggs. That's the best they could do. With the guy who punched a Leviathan and got it to stop moving. And that's the best they could think of. Also, I do want to mention something real quick. Stan Lee's cameo, instead of a guy in the 1970s, it would have been so much cooler if he was one of the people at Iron Man's funeral. But that's besides the point. Just a little note that I wanted to mention here. They could have taken out scenes. I'm gonna get some hate for this, but the Ant-Man taco scene they could have removed to put in something else. I feel like they didn't touch enough on some of those relationships. But that's basically it. Those are just some little nitpicks I have. There aren't really negatives, just things I wish they did more of. Now, let's get into positives, because boy are there positives. Iron Man, it's basically his movie. Cap is amazing. I've never liked Cap more as a character. Black Widow, this might be Scarlett Johansson's best performance as Black Widow. Mark Ruffalo as Hulk, even though I don't like what they did with Hulk, I liked his performance. Nebula didn't really have much to do. Not going to talk about that. I loved Rocket and War Machine in this movie. I was never a War Machine guy. I felt like he was basically an Iron Man knockoff, wasn't really important, but then I saw it and, oh lord, I loved War Machine in this movie. Rocket made me laugh. I loved Ant-Man. Fat Thor is amazing, especially him dual wielding. Hawkeye in this movie was he was my favorite character of the movie. Video coming on that. It was actually supposed to come out on June 30th, but I decided I'm going to delay it till I have some more footage. I think it was a good idea. So, yeah. Oh god, who else was in this movie? 2014 Thanos. I don't want to get into 2014 Thanos in this video because that'll take a while. So, you know, I'm going to make a note of it right now. The time heist, I thought the time heist was really fun. Black Widow's sacrifice was so heartbreaking. The New York one, I was cracking up throughout it. That was phenomenal. Rhodey and Nebula on Morag getting the Power Stone, making fun of Star-Lord, was the thing I didn't know I wanted in a Marvel movie, and Thor seeing his mother again was nice. It's a nice little scene. So I like what they did with that. And yes, of course I'm going to get into the final battle. Dear Lord, although I do want to touch on something first. So Thanos bombs the entire Avengers facility and doesn't kill a single living thing. So anyway, when they get out of that, we get the Trinity versus Thanos. Cap lifts up the hammer, and it's at this moment that you hear this for the next 30 minutes non-stop. You hear that? Or at least I know I did. There's basically cheering every 30 seconds. But then it happens. You get Cap's last stand. Shield breaks, and I had prepared myself for a year. I was like, you know what? Cap's going to die here, isn't he? And then you hear, I was like, Cap's gonna die here. This is it. And then I saw it, and I still wasn't ready, even though I've been preparing for a year for this moment. But then he gets up, you hear, hey Cap, do you read? It's Sam on your left. And then we get the one scene in the MCU that has been able to replace the Avengers first assembling, and that is when they all come through the portal. Cap yells, Avengers assemble, they charge into battle. Tony, Pepper fight back to back. Ant-Man punches a Leviathan out of the air. Thinking about how great that scene is. It's amazing. But then, you know, you get goosebumps. This is one of my favorite moments to react to. When Strange is holding back the water and Thanos punches Captain Marvel off the screen like she's in Smash Bros. And then Strange holds up his one finger to Tony. And I got goosebumps. And online watching this scene, so many people start cheering because they're like, oh, this is it. They're going to take down Thanos. And then it's like kind of slow-mo, and Thanos puts his fingers up, and Tony grabs the gauntlet, and very subtly, it's super subtle. If you go onto YouTube and watch it on the slowest speed, it's hard to tell, but you can see a little light of an Infinity Stone switching hands when Tony gets thrown back. Then you hear I am inevitable, music stops, snap, and for a moment your heart stops, and you're like, wait a minute, what just happened? And then you see Tony with all the stones like, I am Iron Man, bam. And then the music plays from Avengers when he's got the nuke, and it's awesome. And then he dies. And Cap's old. And Thor's a Guardian now. Oh, this movie. Anyway, number 1, Avengers Infinity War. This movie is just, this is like an A++ for me. One of the greatest comic book movies ever. This movie, it's the first time I watched it, I felt like there was a lot of jumping around between characters at the first part, but the more you watch it, it kind of feels jumpy, but it's also, because they're all doing different little things, it also feels contained. Like, it's like you jump from the Guardians doing something to Cap, and then back to Thor, and then over to Iron Man, then back to Thor, and then Cap, and then they get to Wakanda, and everything starts slowing down. And now I realize that not only was it supposed to be like that, but because there's only a few characters all doing things, when it switches, it feels like it's not, like, huge. And then the third act of this movie is amazing. Not as good as Endgame's, but we get the Battle of Wakanda, which I rather enjoy, and the Battle on Titan, which is one of the best fights in the MCU, and it ends with that, and wow, then we had to wait a year. And making Thanos the main character in this movie was fantastic. The best MCU villain we've had is 2018 Thanos, and I still love rewatching that movie. Anyway, guys, that's it for my ranking of the 4 Avengers movies. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below, but don't be a hater, because that's mean. Also, leave a like on this video, subscribe, and click on the bell icon to receive all notifications from the M2HQ. That's going to be it. Have a great day, guys.